if I had to go back and take the last 5 years and do it over, and I was for free, like, we got to live, and my wife was taken care of and everything like that, but like I didn't make the money I made, but I had developed the same skills I had now, I would do it in a heartbeat. I would have done the last 5 years for free because I know now with the skills I have now that I could do what I did. It took 5-6 years in a year or two now, and be able to and do really well financially, right? So I think you have to understand as you're learning and going through stuff, if even if it's either going to show up in your bank account as a win, right, and you're going to make money from it, or you're going to learn a lesson that will teach you how to avoid that trap or how to make more money in the future. But if you give me an option between X amount of money or developing the skill set, I'll take the skill set all day long, because I truly and vehemently believe, Mark, if it all got taken away tomorrow, I could rebuild it in a third amount of time.
Thank you for joining us on our Family First Life Tri-State Serve the People podcast. We appreciate you tuning in, spending your time to develop and grow with us. Follow us, please, on all our social media platforms at Family First Life Tri-State or FFL Tri-State. We love you. Keep listening, and I hope this information is serving you across the country. All right, everybody, thank you for jumping on with us for our Family First Life Tri-State Training Day podcast. I got no other than the man, the myth, the legend, Zac Twardowski, who's crushing it, has been crushing it, integrity partner, council member of Family First Life Capital, just a machine of a dude, Hall of Fame producer. Somewhere his jersey's in the rafters, and I got the opportunity to get him on the podcast today, so I'm excited. Zac, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man, and I appreciate you having me on. And I was did a call with you the other week, and I was all fired up after. I'm like, I love getting time with Mark. I've learned a ton from you, and so for me to get on with you, it's an absolute honor, and I appreciate everything you do for me, family, and the company in totality. But it's an honor, dude. I appreciate every time we get to talk, and thank you so much for everything you've done for me.
Dude, I appreciate everything that I've been able to learn from you as well. I mean, honestly, when I think about you, it's at some point in life you have to decide what you want to do. How serious do you want to take any opportunity? And you were probably one of the best front row seats that I had because of the age that you were when you got started here. So, it's legendary type stuff to be able to say, hey, how old were you when was it 23 or 22 when you decided?
I started in the business when I was 22. Like when I really, decided to stop messing around, I was 23. Like that's when I was like, all right, I'm going to take this thing seriously. And then I started doing well at taking it seriously probably like 24, right? It took me a little while. Like I was doing a lot of the right stuff for a little bit in the beginning, but there's a learning curve, right? And I think, Mark, part of it is I was okay with, knowing I was going to make maybe a little bit less money in the beginning, but I was going to really grind it out and figure things out. And then I knew that with what we do, and I told you this the other day, I'm like, you said early on, like, you eat what you kill in this business, right? And in the beginning, you do a lot of work and you get less results while you're learning and you're building your skill set. And then what happens is you do, as you keep doing the same amount of work, then you get outsized returns later on. So I like that 23, 24 age right there, I was learning it and not having the craziest results, but I was starting to build up that skill set that turned into big results later on, right?
And you were cognizant you were doing that, correct?
Yeah, I wasn't worried as much about the results right day one, because I knew if I could figure it out and figure out what everyone else knew, then it would turn into real profitable business at some point. I was cognizant of understanding I had to develop the skill set, just like anything else you do in life, right? Whether it's school, whether it's athletics, whatever. Like I think about school a lot. It's like, I took some crazy, stupid chemistry classes, like really hard chemistry classes in college, because I thought I was going to be a doctor, which served no purpose in my life now. But it taught me, like, you take basic chemistry, then you take, the next level of chemistry, then organic chemistry, then you start building up on top of what you know, right?
Yeah.
And I think this business is very much the same way. It's like you're not going to be able to skip to the end right away and skip to be an integrity partner. You have to build all the necessary skills level by level to get there, right? And so I understood that I was doing that in that process where, I was doing well. I was, we were comfortable. I was doing really well, but I wasn't seeing, like, I wasn't where you were at in business yet, but I didn't expect to be either. I'm like, I have to build the skills to get to where Mark's at, and build the skills to get to where John's at, and these different people are at business.
Yeah, and but to me, that's the gold, right? That's the gem. Like, again, at a young age, the cognizant, the awareness of, hey, listen, I gotta fail forward. I gotta learn. I gotta take the lumps and the cuts that it takes to understand how to maneuver. And why I say that's the gold is because I see too many people not willing to do that. And I guess if you could speak to people that maybe want to do it, but maybe don't understand it. Maybe they don't understand drawing a line in the concrete. Maybe they don't understand the sacrifices, or maybe they don't understand losing to win or losing to learn. Can you help a little there?
Yeah, I was having a conversation with Sean the other day actually, and I was like, dude, I don't mean this to be like, weird or anything. I'm crazy appreciative for, the financial side of this. But if if I if I had to go back and take the last 5 years and do it over, and I was for free, like, we got to live, and my wife was taking care of it, everything like that. But like I didn't make the money I made, but I developed the same skills I had now, I would do it in a heartbeat. Yeah. I would have done the last 5 years for free because I know now with the skills I have now that I could do what I did, it took 5-6 years in, a year or two now, and be able to do really well financially. Right. So I think you have to understand as you're learning and going through stuff, if it's either going to show up in your bank account as a win, right, and you're going to make money from it, or you're going to learn a lesson that will teach you how to avoid that trap or how to, make more money in the future. But if you give me an option between, X amount of money or, developing the skill set, I'll take the skill set all day long, because I truly and vehemently believe, Mark, if it all got taken away tomorrow, I could rebuild it in, a third amount of time as it took to get here now, because I've had to go through and learn all this stuff and do everything. And I've learned what works and what doesn't work. And I've developed the skill set. So I think people don't place enough value on really learning the skills and understanding I thought, and it took me a while to get here for sure, but if I spent money on something that didn't work, I didn't look at it like, oh, I lost X amount of money on spending on this thing that didn't work. I was like, dude, that was a valuable lesson for me to learn what doesn't work, and I looked at it like, I paid a little expense for, learn that this thing didn't work. Right. And even silly things, if you have debt or roll up stuff like that, I was talking to someone the other day. I had a big one in 2021. Right. And I was doing really well that year, doing very, very well financially that year. And I was like, for me to net what I'm netting now, I'd have to spend $100 million on real estate to make that net money. So the roll up that I had that was pretty big is fractional compared to what it would take to make this type of money in any other industry. Right. And I think just putting things into the proper perspective. Right. So if you have a year where, it's up or down, or you don't make exactly what you want to make, take a second, look at it and be like, wow, look at these skills I developed that will make me, very wealthy in the future. And understand, you may not see it right away, but if you keep doing the same thing and you stay focused, Mark, I think the biggest trap people fall into is they start doing well and then they want to do 5 other businesses too, right? And they're like, let me install all these other things. Dude, the people that do the best are not the most skilled people. They're the people that stay freaking focused the longest, right? And if you can just stay focused and lasered in.
Facts.
Right?
Facts.
And I look at it like that. I'm like, I hope other people want to mess around and do 5 different things, because if they're spending, even if they're working 80 hours a week and they're spending, 20 hours in each business, that means, dude, I could spend 60 hours on ours and still smoke them, because I'm spending 3 times more time on the one business that they are, because they're so spread out. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I think people, get distracted, and it's like, you're going to have to suck at it. You're going to have to go through the lumps. You're going to have to learn everything from the ground up. But if you're able just to stay focused and consistent, then you'll get much better than everyone else, because most people's tendency is to, when they start doing well, they start trying to figure out other things, do different things. Or if they, if they have a bad day or a week, they don't go, oh, I learned a valuable skill. They go, oh, this doesn't work, so I'm not going to do it anymore. Right. So if you can just stay laser focused and figure out what lesson you can take from each experience, whether it's a positive and something I can keep replicating and doing in the future, or something that didn't work, you can throw it out. You have to be a student of the game to be able to keep up with everyone else. Right.
Bro, huge. I love that. Thank you for that breakdown. That's going to help a lot of people. In 2022, your company took off. Obviously you had a lot of success prior to that, enough to get your integrity partnership in 2021, right? Mm-hmm. What would you attest the 2022 explosive growth to? And what are some things that you can, if someone was looking to have a year like that, what do you think are some things that can help and aid in that?
Yeah, I think the first thing, and I think we would have had a more explosive year. I was looking at the things, reviewing the business at the end of the year. I'm like, what things did we do well this year? What didn't we do well? We almost doubled. It wasn't quite a double, but we almost doubled in 2022. In 2021, we like quadrupled, right? So 2022, transparently for me, was not exactly what we wanted for the year. It's still ridiculous growth, like 99% growth or whatever it is, right?
Right.
And so it wasn't quite as close as you get a doubling without doubling. But what I looked at and what I did and what we started doing really well towards the tail end of the year that led to a lot of the growth was getting back to doing, the real basic things. And I think the trap you can fall into is if you get too big to do the small things, then you start getting small again, right? And you can't do the big things, right? And so the things that we always did really well and that I was focused on was my goal was to always have new people coming in direct to me. What I screwed up for a little bit and towards the beginning of 2022 was only, giving out agents and creating a dependent welfare system, right? I mean, people earn things, not working with direct agents. And that did a couple of things to me as a leader. Like I had people depending on me, which I don't want to do. I want to teach people how to be independent contractors. And then B, all I heard was the negative and like, this doesn't work. These agents are no good, whatever. And then what changed was I started bringing everyone direct to me, working with agents with me and my staff. And I got to see the new people that, could barely pay their mortgage and change their life. And then I got to see the people that started excelling and building a business right away. And that reinvigorated me, right? Which was really important. And my goal became, and Mark, what I started telling people when I'm interviewing them is I'm like, hey, I'm looking for someone who, wants to change their financial situation, someone who has either has management experience or wants to learn how to be a manager, someone who's not afraid to work 60, 70, 80 hours a week, someone who's going to help 30 families a month. And if you're not going to do any of those things, you can certainly work with FFL and I'll hook you up with someone else, but you can't work directly with me because I'm looking for someone who wants to be a leader, someone who wants to build a team and do all these things. Are you in or you out? And if you say that you're in and you don't follow through, then I'm gonna move on and move you with someone else. Does that sound good, right? And I got back to, and that's true. That is what we're looking for, right? As leaders, to help build other leaders. But I lost it for a minute, dude. We were like, let's just bring everyone in and we'll figure it out later. And then we got back to that being crazy transparent. Hey, this is amazing business. But a lot of people don't make it because they can't be disciplined. They don't do this, they don't do that. And I just started being so transparent with people. And then like magic, right? Like the silver bullet, Mark, all of a sudden I started finding better people because I was being really honest with people about how the business works and the wrong ones were going away. The right ones were coming in. And then we started growing like crazy again. So part of it was getting back to doing, and I use this analogy when I'm thinking about it is like, that'd be like you're a Knicks fan, right? The Knicks were good when they won NBA championship in like the 70s or 80s, something like that.
Like 73, I think.
73, right? Dude, this is how dumb this is when you don't like replace the people that are working directly with you and you think your leadership group is the leadership group forever. That'd be like if the 78 Knicks who won championship, if they still had that same starting five now, dude, I think half the guys maybe are dead or like in wheelchairs, right? It would be stupid.
Right. That's a good
point. But we do
That's
that
good.
sometimes in business. We're like, these are my starting five forever. And I had to stop doing that. I'm like, no, I need to recruit new people, bring new talent in. And like the Knicks, right? Like they bring in new talent, they bring in good new people. They bring people from college, they draft them, they recruit people, they do all the stuff that we do. But sometimes we're like, these are my starting five forever. And if you don't have new competition coming in, then your group can get stale.
No doubt.
And I think that when it gets stale, that's what kills growth, right?
No doubt.
So we had to get back to constantly trying to replace my starting five. And I'm like, dude, I have amazing people on my team. If I could find better ones, I'm not going to like get rid of my guy, but if I could find better ones, like how amazing would that be? How much is that going to help everyone if we bring in new talent that just, the rising tide raises all ships, right?
That's huge. And you'd started doing that, and it allowed.
I started doing it. And yeah, one thing the mistake I made, dude, was I was telling everyone to do that stuff this year in the beginning of the year. And I wasn't doing it, but I knew it needed to be done, right? And dude, it is easier to be a coach than do the actual crap work, right? And then again, like, right?
Right.
Like, dude, it's easier to train. It's easier to tell people what to do to work out than actually working out. It's easier to tell people what to do in business than actually doing it.
Right.
It's easy for me to say, Mark, run 30 appointments a week. It's harder for me to actually go do it, right? Like, it's not difficult, but it's just, it takes more work.
Right.
And then again, like a silver bullet, dude, as soon as I started doing all the stuff I was telling people to do, then everyone else started doing it and we started growing like crazy again, So for me, transparently, I had to not think I was too good, too big, too important doing these things. And luckily it was a short period of time where I wasn't doing it. But as soon as we got back to it, that's when we started taking off again.
It makes sense, dude. And That's why you are where you are now. When you look at now, one thing I always notice about you, or always respect about you, is you're never afraid to do the work. Like, you've always been willing to do the work. So whether it's, we've all been lost for a season or 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever, right? So, you know, it's not easy to be on 365 5 years in a row. Like, sometimes, you know, stuff takes place and you got to find your way back. But the key for you is you're always willing to do the work to find your way back, no matter what it is. And I respect the crap out of you for that. You know, when you look at 2023, you know, this podcast today, you know, it's annual convention day. You know, you look at the importance of annual convention to all the people at Family First Life who are flocking in into Miami and trying to find their seats, right? What are some things that you would say are advantageous to somebody who's looking to take full advantage of a star-studded weekend like this?
Yeah, I think the most important thing, it's definitely important to show up, right? But to maximize what you can get out of annual convention, and like what I always do, I do this once a month, Mark, and I probably should do it more, but I always take some time, you know, beginning of every month, a couple hours in the morning to like evaluate and look at my business and myself and see where I need to work on, like where I'm struggling at, what needs improved, right? And I remember I started doing that because of annual convention. So the first one that I went to was Dallas 2018. I mean, man, there might have been a couple hundred people there, I think, at that point, right? Like it was not packed. It was in like it was where we hold like sales conferences at now type of room, right? But when I was going there, I remember I didn't have a ton of money at the time. It was a relatively big investment for me to get there. I just had started like a month before. And I was like, well, if I'm going to go to this thing, I got to get everything I can out of it. So I took a big, you know, yellow legal pad and I wrote down, you know, what I needed help with and who I thought could help me with that. And I went up and had questions prepared for everybody. You know, I remember I talked to Matt Smith about, you know, how do I find, you know, annuity opportunities? And I think I talked to you about my schedule, and I talked to Andrew about lead flow. And I had a plan going in a very intentional schedule of what I needed to learn and from who. So I would encourage everyone that's going to convention is, and dude, the nice thing now is, so 2019 was my first full year, like the first full year and then I went to a convention after. In 2019, we had 11 Hall of Fame producers, right? This year we have hundreds and hundreds. I think we probably have 150, 200 Hall of Fame producers, maybe more. So there's a lot more people from you to be able to get information out of. So I would still, you know, have a bunch of questions, figure out what you need help with, whether it's recruiting, whether it's staffing, whether it's lead flow, whether it's in-home, whether it's how to do telesales. And if you're someone who's watching this and you're newer and you're like, I don't know who the right players are, then ask someone in your organization who you should go talk to, and they'll be able to tell you. Like, I could answer any of those, right? If someone was like, hey, I need help with my staff and how to lead and build disciplined people and motivate, I'd be like, you got to talk to Mark Mead, right? If they were like, I want help with systems, I'd go, hey, talk to, you know, John. And I would know the right people to direct them to, right?
Correct.
So I encourage everyone watching this to evaluate what you need help with. And then if you don't know who to go get the help from at convention, get with someone on your team who's been here a little while and knows all the players, and they'll tell you who to go get, you know, advice from each different thing from, and take the most out of it. And then the important part, Mark, is you have to take what you learn and implement it, because people who are mentors and people like Mark, right? Like if Mark tells you how to do something and what to do in some situation, and then you just hear him out and then you don't do it, you follow back up with him and he's like, oh, you didn't do this. Like, I'm wasting my time now. Right. But if someone like Mark, you know, you go to and you're like, hey, I need help with this. What do I do? He tells you, you go do it. You bring back the result. Hey, I did it. He's going to be much more inclined to help you in the future, because you're not wasting his time. Right. And I think that's really important. So those are the couple of things I would take advantage of at convention. And then the other thing is I would make sure you build relationships with people that can help you. Right. And be around people that can help you. So if you're an agent that's helping 20 families a month and your goal is to be a Hall of Fame producer, don't hang out with all your friends that help 10, 15 families a month. Go find some people who help 30, 40, 50 families a month and get around them and pick their brain. If you're someone whose team's been at, whatever level it's been at for a certain amount of time and you want to get to the next level, find someone who's done 2 or 3 times what you do, get around them, sit there, listen to them, study, see what they're talking about. But, you have to, the biggest trap, I think, Mark, is it's really easy to talk to and be around people who are where you're at. They make you feel comfortable, right? And as soon as I started having like a burning desire to be around people like Mark and always be uncomfortable, that's when my business started to grow, because I was always around people who were I wanted to get to, and I stopped hanging out and talking to people who weren't where I wanted to be, because they can't help you get there.
Right.
You know, and I think you have to be willing to get uncomfortable. You have to be willing to, you know, move on, and you can still be friends with those people, but I don't really know what the value of that is either, right? Like, I don't. I'm not trying to be rude, but there's not a lot of value in that. You want to be around and friends with and mentored by people that can, you know, add to your life, not subtract from it, right?
That's strong. You know, I think about also the fact that, you know, these are annual convention has been selected in high-level destination cities, you know, cities where stuff pops off. You know, Miami is a city that's popping. What is your advice to somebody whose goal is to go in there and learn, but can be distracted, or can be, you know, or can have a late night that doesn't get them to the learning session on time the next? Like, what is your advice?
Yeah, coming from someone who's had some late nights early in the career when I wasn't doing well, like, just that's why Mark asked me. He's like, he could talk about it because he was the guy that showed up to the hotel at 5 a.m. after being out all night. So it's all good. And what I could tell you is that was 2019, was we did it in Vegas, same thing. Easy to stay out all night, and I remember, you know, doing that, going out, you know, and I didn't stay out till 5 a.m. probably, but, you know, 2 or 3 a.m. Since then, as you know, Mark, I've completely quit drinking. I've taken my life a lot more seriously, and I got basically nothing out of the 2019 convention. I got a lot out of 2018 because it was one I took very seriously. It was a business trip for me. 2019, you know, I'm 23 years old. I got the whole damn world figured out, right? I'm like, I don't need these guys' help anymore. I got it all figured out, Mark, right? So I go out, party, show up to the awards convention. 2019, I had like zero growth in my business at all, right? And then 2020, I was like, I don't want to have another year like that. Like, let me make this like a real business trip now moving forward. And 2020 was the year where we went from doing the same, you know, 150 families a month we were helping in 2019 the entire year. 2020 after convention was the year we went from, that was the year that helped me get an integrity deal. We went from 150 families helped a month with in January that year to 1,100 by the end of that year. And it was a lot of stuff I picked up at convention. I talked to people who had blown up the year before. I remember like clear as day, I spent a bunch of time with Grady, you, Andrew Taylor, and I didn't go out. I didn't drink. I took it very seriously because I was like, I wasted a year of my life because, you know, I didn't take advantage of the opportunity to get around these people that are high leverage individuals that can help me in the future. You know, everyone thought of me the kid that was out drinking till 3 a.m, which I was, right? So I encourage everyone, like, if you want to take this seriously, like, treat it like a business trip. Treat it like something that can, you know, add some commas to your bank, because it can, if you treat it the right way. Or it could be a trip you go to and you learn nothing from, and you go home on Sunday with a hangover. And it's totally up to you. It just depends on where you're at in your life, I guess.
No doubt. That's great, man. And when you know, I've heard this my whole life, you know, my whole professional life when it comes to conventions, is big decisions are made at huge conventions. You know, why do you think that is, Zach? And yeah, why do you think big decisions are made at big conventions or big events?
Yeah, I think for me, what I can say is I put everyone on a pedestal before I got around them early in my career, Mark. I was like, and don't get me wrong, there's some talented people that work here, but I put everyone up here, like way up here, like they were this, you know, like it was weird, like they were just on a pedestal for me. And then I got to meet some of them and talk to them, and they answered questions, and they were just normal people, you know, and I got around them, and I got around the whole community, and I realized, like, all these things that I had told myself, like, oh, this guy closes this well because he's, you know, has this special charisma, and then this guy is this, and I started talking to everyone, and it removed all the excuses for me. I'm like, they're just normal people. They bleed just like I do. They, you know, they breathe air just like I do. So all I have to do is just copy a couple of things they're saying and make a couple very small tweaks, and I can do what they do. And so I think for me, the biggest thing was, yes, the information's amazing, the connections are amazing, but also getting around people and realizing that they're no different than you. They're not more special than you. And honestly, like, the biggest thing I learned, Mark, was that most of the really successful people I got around, they didn't like do a ton more, but they cut out a lot of stuff in their life that distracted them, right? And they just were much more efficient, focused, much more diligent with their time than I was. And so for me, it was just being able to, you know, it removed all the excuses and stripped them all down. When I met everyone, I'm like, gosh, a normal dude. Like, he's just like me. What's my excuse now? You know?
I love it. And that's the thing. So from that standpoint, the things you're thinking about loading up for that year, whatever year that is, let's call it 2023. You fly down and you start talking to people and you realize, wait a minute, they're no different than me. And you see they're having success. You get to you push all your chips into the middle of the table, and you realize like. Why you meet with your spouse, you start drawing out the big goals because it's like, why not me? Why not us? If you're talking to your spouse, your family, why not us? And all of a sudden, you start putting big, hairy goals down, and you're willing to back that by the work. To me, debating on whether or not you were going to go is asinine because you got into this business because you wanted to make change in your life. Like this, make sense? You want to make change in your life by helping people. Okay. Now you see the scale of what it can do, and you have now the ability to go do that. But what's in between that dream and that and that reality is work and goals and planning, and the conventions pull that stuff out of you. It pulls the planning, and it just removes, distraction. It makes you say, okay, the time is now, and that's huge for a lot of people. So taking that and making that their thing is important. But then you come out of that convention, Zach. Talk about the momentum coming out of convention, the momentum you're expecting in your group in 2023, roaring out of convention.
Yeah, the momentum is insane, especially now. I think the important thing to note for everyone is everyone can come out and be excited for a couple of days and a couple of weeks and even a month, right? But motivation is fleeting, right? And dude, if you were like give one attribute to every single person and you can only pick one for everybody, right? I think a lot of people would think, oh, you'd pick someone that's like a closer. Dude, I would just pick someone who is disciplined or persistent, however you want to put it, right? Someone who just does the work every single day, no matter what, right? Same activity, week in, week out. Dude, give me that person over someone who closes 100% of people all day long, because I can work with that, And so what I would say to everyone is understand you're going to be really motivated, really excited. We're going to see tremendous growth. Our goal for the year is, to get to 10,000 families, I think, 100,000, whatever it is,
exactly.
100,000 families helped by the end of the year, which would be, significant growth for us throughout the year. And that's our drop dead goal. Like, we're not missing that. And if we could triple this year, which I see the path forward for us to be able to do that. And I don't think it's outrageous to be able to hit that number at all. That's our real goal. But what I would say to everyone coming out is you're going to be really motivated, but give yourself some non-negotiables coming out to make sure that the motivation doesn't wear off and you revert back to your old ways, right? So like for me, after the initial convention, and it's really simple, basic stuff, but it was like after so 2018, I learned how to sell a lot of insurance, right? Which was, I'm going to run 30 appointments a week, no matter what. If I missed it one week and I run 28, that means next week I have to run 32. That's my discipline, plus all the skills that I learned led to me writing a bunch of business, right? Then the next one, 2020, what I came out of, 2019 was a scratch because I was in a weird place in my life. But let's skip over to 2020, right, Mark? What I learned with building was really a similar thing. Was we had to do the writing at a consistent level, and we had to set non-negotiable goals for building a business too. So for me, my goal that year, just to give everyone an example, was I wanted to add 100 agents by the end of the year, because I knew based on 100 agents, 10 apps per month average, that would get us to our goal by the end of the year, right? So I started reverse engineering it all the way down. I'm like, well, for me to get to 100 by the end of the year, I have to add 2 new agents a week in the field, issue paid writers. So for 2 new agents a week in the field, we have to make sure we're getting a minimum of 5, but really the goal would be 10 contracted agents a week. And we have to be getting 10 to 15 people into class, registered for class every single week. So to get to there, my staff and I are going to have to do anywhere from 30 to 60 interviews a week to get to that level, right? So I think understand what your big goal is for the year, be motivated and be well equipped and have new tools in your tool belt, word tracks to say, ways to recruit, all that stuff. But then for you and your goal, break it down, reverse engineer it down to whatever the beginning of that is. So if the beginning of it for you is writing a bunch of business, be like, I need to get X amount of leads per week, make X amount of dials per day, set this many appointments, close this amount, whatever. That gets me to my goal for the end of the year. And then on the recruiting side, Mark, same thing, right? It's like, how many people if I want to add 2 new agents a week, if I want to add 4 new agents a week, if I want to add 10, whatever your number is, take some time, draw it out. Like Mark was saying, sit down, draw it out, and figure out what the action steps you need to do to be able to get there, and then work them into your schedule. So like, for instance, when I was in 20, Mark, when I was running still 30 appointments a week, and my staff and I were doing a total of, 50 interviews a week, 60 interviews a week, whatever it was total, I had to sit down every single week and draw out when I was going to run my appointments, which days I was going to run my appointments, how I was going to fit the interviews in, when I was going to do coaching calls. But it was all very intentional because I knew exactly where we were trying to go. I had new skill set from the things I learned at convention, and I knew what action items were non-negotiable to make sure we hit our goal by the end of the year. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but hopefully it kind of did.
That's huge. And again, it's no secret why you are where you are. I mean, if y'all are paying attention, I mean, look at the detail that Zac's bringing to the table here and the way he views and understands and works his business. Now, you weren't able to do that when you first started because you didn't know. You didn't have those numerical tracks. You didn't have the thought process. But you developed that. And now you say it backwards. And I think people need to understand there is a development track to real success, and it's not this overnight. It's not what you want to see or think it is. There's a lot of development that you've put yourself through to get where you are. I want to ask you one last question. It's about now that you're taking agents direct again. What are some things you're doing out the gates to get people moving, to get people rolling, and are you using a field, hybrid, or telesales approach?
Yeah, so what we did, and this is something, again, I leaned on Mark for. I brought on someone new to do an agent success coach role to help me out with that, right? Because we're doing it if we were bringing on a couple agents a week, I could handle them all direct, right, Mark? Even like, no matter how busy everyone says they are, like if it was a few agents, I could handle them all direct. But our goal is to get to where we're helping 2,000 families a month by the end of the year, direct agency-wise. It's a big goal for us, but I think we can do it, right? So we're going to do it at scale, so I need some help there. A couple of things we're doing, like I mentioned earlier, I'm telling everyone exactly what kind of person I'm looking for, and I'm asking them to be honest with me. I'm like, you could still work here if you're not this person, right? Like, don't get to it. I'll put you with someone who sells a lot to help you out, but I can't dedicate my time to it, and I'd rather you just be upfront now so that we don't have some weird frustration down the line. So I'm very transparent from the beginning what I'm looking for, and I let them know, hey, if it takes 7 days to get your class done. If you can't get it done in 7 days, again, I don't think I'm super special, but I'm just telling you exactly the type of person I'm looking to work with. If you can't get it done in 7 days, I'm going to move you and have you work with someone else, right? And what I'm going to do, and I tell people at the beginning, Mark, what I'm going to do for you and your team, I'm bringing you out this comp. I'm going to teach you how to, get to where you're helping 30 families a month. Once you get there, we're going to use a lot of my resources plus your warm market and bring agents on. But I'm not going to ask you to pay for anything. I'm going to make an override on it. You're going to make an override on it. And we're both going to make a lot of money together. But if you miss any of the things along the way that I'm asking you to do, like, I'm just going to move on and find someone else to work with. So being very, very transparent from day one, letting them know once they get to 30 families helped a month, I'm going to help them hire their warm market from the beginning, but I'm going to dedicate a lot of time, effort, energy, and resources to them to help them become the next, vice president, the next board member, if they do everything I ask them to do. And then what happens, dude, is if I have, say, 10 people and they all commit to it, there may be 3 or 4 people by the time they get through class, contracting, whatever, that are still left. And that's okay. I like that because I know that those 4 people are serious and I can work with them directly, right?
Right.
So I'm using some fear of loss, but also telling people what the upside looks like if they're willing to do everything I tell them to do and how worth it or make it for them, because I realized this last year. I've always been someone that helps people with leads, right? Like, I've never been opposed to that. I think it makes sense if you do it the right way. You can't buy every single agent leads. You have to buy the right one's leads, and you have to have the right spread on it to do it, right? But what I realized was I'm like, dude, if I'm taking, say, I'm spending $2,000 on leads, and I spread it out amongst 10 agents, they each get $200 in leads. It helps no one, and 8 of those people probably don't deserve leads because they're not doing the right stuff.
Right.
So I'd rather take $2,000 and spend it on 1 or 2 agents that really deserves it, and that many leads actually gives them a shot to win, right? So my goal is to filter out as many people as I possibly can so that I can get to the right ones and focus a lot of time, which is the most important thing, really, dude, because we only have so much time in the day, as you know, right? I want to be able to focus on my time on the right people, screen the wrong ones out, let them work with someone else, and then be able to dedicate, time and money to the right people. And then it's just a lot of communication between, my staff, myself, everyone, to figure out and help and let them help me identify the right people. And what I'm looking for really, Mark, is just the people that, this sounds like oversimplified, but the people that just are different than everyone else in a good way. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like the people that, like the average is here, you know, they do stuff at a certain amount of time. If I text them in the morning, they respond a few hours later. And then there's just the people that just stand out and are different. And you can tell when you do it for long enough, right? And I'm just looking to identify as many of those as possible and dedicate, 80, 90% of my time to the people that stand out, as opposed to wasting a bunch of time. Because let's be real, like, this, a lot of agents don't need your help to write 10 apps a month, right?
Yeah.
They don't need your help. Like they got that figured out on their own. So I'm looking for the people that I can, and what I screwed up big time last year for a while was I was dedicating 80% of my time to the bottom 80% of people that don't need a ton of help. Whereas you should really focus 80% of your time on your top 20%, because you can help those people become Hall of Fame producers, board members, and integrity partners. And they're the ones that will run with and appreciate the advice the most, as opposed to the people that, not bad people, we're still going to help them answer the phone for them, but they also don't deserve a lot of your time because they're not putting the same effort in.
Right. Makes sense. Dude, the clinic as usual, training day podcast, my man Zac T. Bro, I appreciate you more than you know. I'm really looking forward to seeing you today, and I'm excited about what we got going on, bro. This is going to be an explosive year. And FFL Capital, you guys are paving the way, bro, so I appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you, Mark. As always, thanks, man.
God bless everybody. Keep listening. Appreciate you, Zac. Thank you.